This therapy scene is about narcissistic anxiety inspired by the hit TV show The Bear, capturing a flashback where Carmi experiences verbal abuse from Chef David. The dialogue and actions reflect Chef David's anxiety-driven narcissistic behavior, such as grandiosity, insecurity masked by superiority, and a need for control, which he projects onto Carmi. The scene: Carmi's flashback. A bustling high-stress kitchen during service. Pots clang, orders are shouted, and the air is thick with tension. Carmi, young, eager, and wide-eyed, is working furiously at his station, chopping vegetables with precision. Chef David is rigid and tense, storms over, his face red with frustration. His movements are erratic, his voice sharp and cutting. The other kitchen staff shrink back, sensing an explosion. The characters: Chef David, mid-40s, volatile, narcissistic, masking deep insecurity with aggression. Carmi, early 20s, anxious but eager to prove himself. The camera zooms in on Carmi, sweat beading on his forehead as he plates dishes. His hands tremble slightly, but he's focused. Suddenly, Chef David's shadow looms over him. His voice booms, dripping with disdain.
Can you handle this? Is it too much for you? Answer me. I can handle it, Chef.
I can handle it, Chef.
12, 10, 36.
Fire,
Don't
13,
fuck with my
36.
count.
Sorry,
3.
Chef.
Whoa! Doesn't that just get under your skin? Doesn't that just make you boil to hear someone talk like that? You may know someone exactly like that, or somebody may have told you you're like that to them. Narcissistic anxiety is real. It affects people around the narcissist, and the anxiety affects the narcissist themselves. This chef was a jerk, and we wanted to just get up there and grrr. And that is what a narcissistic does. That's what a person who struggles with narcissism, now they wouldn't say they struggle, but someone who has narcissistic tendencies, they make people feel smaller. They make people feel like they're useless. They're nobody because they want to up and be elevated above everyone else. This chef is tearing Carmi down. He's tearing him down and trying to build himself up.
This is why you have the tattoos and your cool little scars and you go out and you take your smoke breaks. It's fun, isn't it? But here's the thing. You're terrible at this.
That is a classic example of narcissistic anxiety. We know that narcissistic personalities can be cold and calculated. They can zero in on make you feel small. They could be harsh. They could be demanding. They could blame you for their mistakes. They can gaslight. They can make you feel that you're the problem. It's a classic maneuver of a narcissistic person. And this chef in The Bear is a great example of narcissistic anxiety. I'm going to speculate here, and I'm going to talk about from the point of view of this chef. Narcissism is entwined by biological factors, environmental, psychological factors that create a person to not really care about anyone in their life. They care about themselves. They're self-absorbed. But why? Why do certain people have narcissistic tendencies? Well, that's what I want to talk about today. I want to talk about from the standpoint of this chef. Why did the chef have these narcissistic tendencies? He enjoys, or at least it seems like he enjoys, tearing people down.
Tough. You are not tough. You are bullshit. You are talentless. Say fucking hands.
Hands?
You should be dead.
Someone who struggles with narcissistic tendencies very likely could have been exposed to very harsh and critical parents, or the exact opposite. Somebody who was coddling. A parent who coddles their child and is there for them for every little need that they might have can create a self-absorbed person. Somebody who expects things done for them. And when they're not done for them, then they're upset. And they look at people as an inconvenience to their well-being. And that's the point here. A narcissistic person is all wrapped up about their well-being, how they're feeling. It's all about them. Or it's all about others for making them inconvenienced. Another factor for narcissistic anxiety is cultural or social influences on a child. If a child grows up in a society or maybe in their culture or maybe in their home environment, and they believe that or they're taught that they have to protect themselves, they have to look out for themselves, they have to look at other people as weaker than themselves. Because if you don't, then other people are going to win. And if they believe that and they grow up believing that they have to win, that they have to lord it over people to exert their power, their influence, their status on someone else to break them down, that's what they've learned. That's winning to them. Narcissistic anxiety is not targeted to one specific gender. It could be a male or it could be female. It doesn't matter what gender you are. And some research talks about genetics playing a role. I tend to believe it's primarily behavior, it's learned behavior. So if a child grows up with a mom or a dad who has narcissistic tendencies, they boss the spouse around and they tell them, "You're not good enough. You're doing this wrong. Listen to me. I'm the one in charge. You need to do that. You can't do that." If a child grows up hearing that, they're going to learn that behavior and they're going to instill that in themselves. And even unsubconsciously, they're going to start to exhibit those behaviors. So the trait of narcissistic anxiety can often be learned by observing other people in their life who tear others down, who criticize, who build themselves up in order to look good. Another factor for narcissistic anxiety is overcompensating for a weakness. Someone who is narcissistic likely has a weakness that they're aware of, but they don't want anyone else to know. So they're quick to point out someone else's weakness as a way of deflecting how they feel on the inside. A narcissistic person may struggle with their looks or a specific skill or their intelligence, some feature that they feel very insecure. And they go after the people that are the easiest targets to tear them down so they can feel better. And that's the anxiety that is powering the narcissist. And they don't even realize that they're struggling with the anxiety. They just want to bring out the negative in everybody else around them to make them feel better. It's worth noting here that narcissistic personality, there's a spectrum. There's on one end, there is someone who exaggerates and maybe they are more confident and they exert that. And then on the other end of the spectrum, it's an actual personality disorder called narcissistic personality disorder. I tend to believe that the chef on the bear is on that spectrum. He is on the end of the spectrum, the narcissistic personality disorder. I think he struggles with this and he doesn't even care. You can see that he's targeting Carmi here. And for whatever reason, I think it's because he's intimidated by Carmi. I think he sees in Carmi what he lacks, and he's intimidated by that. So he's going to tear Carmi down. He's going to whisper in his ear. He's going to give him the look. He's going to be intimidating and walk loudly around Carmi because he knows that bugs Carmi. The narcissistic personality of someone who struggles with that personality disorder, they know they have power in the room and they will exert that power every single chance that they get. You know a show is good when you get a visceral reaction from a character. And this character, the chef on the bear, who has narcissistic anxiety, is a great example of that. Don't you just think he's a jerk? Don't you want to kind of just slap him? He deserves it. But it's a good example of how someone who struggles with narcissistic tendencies and anxiety, you think about their childhood, what caused them to act that way? Now, we're not thinking that when they treat us poorly. We're not thinking, oh, okay, well, there must be a reason why you're being a jerk. We're not thinking that, but I think it's worth considering that there is a reason why somebody is so cruel and so biting and so controlling. There's a reason for that. And it's the anxiety that's within them. So what do you do? What do you do if maybe you realize, oh, I'm just like that chef in the bear? Or what do you do when you identify with Carmi, when maybe a spouse is treating you that poorly? What do you do? The person who has narcissistic anxiety, this is someone that it's going to be very difficult for you to really work on these things, because the first thing is you have to admit your weakness. You have to recognize that you have a weakness. You have to understand that people around you are walking on eggshells because of your reactions to them. That's the first place. If you're willing to go there, then you need to work on being more empathetic, being more kind with your words, and being more willing to understand the other person and not tear them down. If you're the person on the receiving end, like Carmi was, what do you do when, let's say, it's a spouse that continuously tears you down and makes you feel small? That's difficult. You're in a difficult position. And when you're feeling that way and you feel like there's no other way out, you have to really set your boundaries, and you have to be clear with those boundaries. Don't do this alone. Get some expert help from a therapist or at least a friend or a family member to help you develop these boundaries and be firm with those boundaries so you can protect your emotional well-being.